Hello, this is episode 2 of my video blog. The topic today I wanted to discuss was related to stimulus. Ed Harrison at nakedcapitalism.com has put up a fantastic post about was stimulus required? Should it have been a monetary stimulus, fiscal stimulus, or both? And as the post progresses, you realize that he's getting a little bit more pessimistic uh, about the whole government intervention scheme itself. So I thought let me add in few of my comments. First, at the moment before Lehman collapse, I think stimulus was required. I think it was absolutely necessary that we jumpstart the economy. It was like the economy was in a cardiac arrest, and it needed to be jump started. So a stimulus was required to buy time for a proper, full scale, elaborate reforms to take place in the subsequent period. However, what happened was that the government did go for stimulus, and while going for and after that it did not follow through on the reforms. Now this had, I mean, there were few problems. First, when going for a stimulus, it was not an ordinary situation. The situation was extreme leverage at the consumer level, at the industry level, and at the government level itself in the US. Now, this leverage would be increased when you give when there would be a stimulus. So, government had to be cautious on how much stimulus and the kind of stimulus that they have to give. The second part was that irrespective of how much stimulus and how long the economy would stay stimulated, government had to quickly ramp up a regulatory arsenal and really get after cleaning up the problem, which they didn't. Now, as to what stimulus would have worked, I think the option was monetary stimulus. With monetary stimulus works only when the monetary mechanism is fairly robust. There is enough incentive, there is enough awareness, there is enough supply chain dynamic going on in the banking system, right down to the borrower level to the Federal Reserve level. This clearly was broken at the time of subprime crisis, so it was not really an option. It was the banking system, the monetary transmission mechanism was really broken at multiple levels. In fact, first there was no trust between banks, amongst themselves. So that was a bigger constraint. That was one of the constraints. Second, banks did not know the borrowers, and the comfort with smaller businesses was not evident. So it is very difficult to kickstart a borrowing process in such a scenario. Further, the borrowers themselves were over leveraged, and banks were taking advantage of the borrower through multiple channels like one-off charges on credit cards and things that are not really fair, I would say. So this was the situation of the monetary channel. The second part was fiscal channel. Now fiscal, see, it's easy to just pick up Keynes and say, okay, Keynes is my god, and let me give you a fiscal stimulus. And whereas the intent of the Keynesian stimulus was totally lost because the stimulus was not targeted in a way to encourage comfort with future income. That's what the I mean, to me, that's what the idea of the stimulus was, that if I'm comfortable with my future income, I'm confident of my future income, no matter how small, I'll be in a much better position to plan my expenses and my consumption, and that is a level of consumption I can sustain as an economy. So I would have loved to see a stimulus program that really, you know, emphasize this. But cash for clunkers, tax rebates really are not the kind of fiscal stimuli that you're looking for uh, in such a scenario where there's a crisis of confidence amongst the consumers. So that um, you know that was the twin dilemma, and the problem with the administration or the U.S. government was that it failed on both counts. First, um, it gave a stimulus, you know, a misdirected stimulus. It created a huge uh, spending by leveraging itself, uh, again borrowing from other countries, and their entire effort, the bang for the buck that they should have looked for or hoped to achieve, they never could achieve that. So I mean, if you design such programs, I'm sure not much will be achieved even in going forward. The new program that they are talking about, cash for appliances. Now, this is again, what are you trying to achieve? There is, ample evidence that suggests that one of windfall gains are usually saved, not spent. So you're not going to get spending or consumption based on these kinds of programs. The second part is you'll still need to give that, confidence inspiring stimulus before you can wind down the stimulus program. And at this moment, the more leverage you're talking about, the more the more vulnerable the country is going to be in the near future, and the more wary you'll find people who are going to buy this debt, predominantly China and Japan, and this is going to be a big concern going for the US going forward. So overall, stimulus is a good idea, provided your initial conditions are conducive for a stimulus. Uh, they, in US, in the case of United States, we need a fiscal stimulus first that really inspires confidence in future income for the population. Second, before you give a tremendous monetary stimulus, you need to clean up the system. Unless you clean up that system, it's not going to, you are not going to get the return on your stimulus that you intend. And third, unless there is any confidence on incomes, you are not going to see in demand side inflation. So let's not worry about that right now, because demand is weak, and you will see some, let it let it pick up. And as the dollar, if the dollar depreciates, you will find some other related inflation striking the US. So this is a very delicate period. I hope the policymakers get it right, and I hope instead of wasting money on fancy programs and creating more junk, I hope they really, sort of make a surgical strike stimulus program uh, going forward. The process is very difficult. It's extremely challenging. It's like, the metaphor that I use, like, I think it's like expecting a performance, a perfect 10 performance from Nadia, like the one by gymnast Nadia in a war zone, like Rambo, for example. It's going to be really tough, and I would not fault with Obama if he failed, but at least he should show the right intent, because he has amazing advisors, and I'm sure they are at least telling him what is known very well in the public domain. So that's it for today. Thank you.